Cicadas in there. Great game. 50 seconds to go. Hurts. Deep shot. Hold in, Devontae.
Sure. Before the press conferences even start. I mean, we could talk for 45 minutes just about how atrocious the defense is.
He's just picking the big guys. Jordan Mailata, he's huge. He'll be good later on. Josh Sweat, he's tall as hell and strong. Let's get him. We'll figure him out. It's working.
Are you ready?
And good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. As always, we are live right here on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Make sure you're following on Facebook. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube, and make sure you're retweeting everything out and following us on Twitter as well. Got lots to go into today. Jam-packed Football Friday episode. We are brought to you, as always, and as on all shows on DSM Media, by Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products, the GOAT in below-the-waist maintenance. Make sure you check them out, manscaped.com. Use promo code TRENDING, name of the show, right there above my bald head. Trending at checkout, get you 20% off and free shipping. And it lets them know that I sent you from Trending in the AM. So make sure you check them out, manscaped.com. Joined again today, my almost officially, temporarily, somewhat of my co-host officially on the show, Mr. Jason Voorhees from Sports and Metal Podcast and Drunk on Ice. At Mustang3651 is where you can find him. Make sure you check him out. What's up, Jason? How you doing this morning?
Doing all right, man. How about you, brother?
Beautiful, beautiful day. Unfortunately, my vacation here in the mountains is officially over this morning. As soon as the show ends, I got to pack the Jeep up, head home, unload it, and then get to work tonight for a busy Friday night at the pizza shop. But you know what? Every vacation has to come to an end so that you can go back to work, so you can take another one 2 weeks from now.
Absolutely.
You can only take vacations if you're making money, unfortunately.
As you said, work harder to play harder.
That's right. Work hard to play hard. Absolutely. So anyway, we got lots to talk about today. Obviously, it's not Overreaction Monday, but there's a lot of social media fans out there overreacting, maybe or maybe not, to the Sixers and the Sixers situation. They lost again to the Nets last night. We're going to talk about the Eagles-Washington game, final predictions and thoughts on that game, because it is Football Friday. And then we're going to go around the NFL. We're going to look at all the different games that are going on in the NFL. It's hard to predict games right now because of all the COVID outbreaks, but we're going to do our best to look at each game individually. And we're just going to go across the board. Not much time on the agenda today, but the Flyers did lose in a shootout last night, 3-2. So their huge three-game winning streak is unfortunately over. At least they pick up that point in the shootout loss. But, we'll get to that this week. Next week, sometime we'll continue talking Flyers, Jason. But anyway, let's talk Sixers, okay? Lost last night by 9. Even if everybody was healthy and on par, we weren't expecting much against the game against the Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are obviously one of, if not the best teams in the NBA. But it's how they lost that's got the fans, in an uproar, in my opinion. Another poor performance from Tobias Harris, 3 of 17 shooting. They lost 114-105. They just had a poor performance all around. Tyrese Maxey was out with a quad contusion. It was a late scratch, so he only ran an 8-man lineup. Joel Embiid and Seth Curry had huge third quarters, but it took huge third quarter from both of those just to get them in the game, because at half they were down double digits again. I think they were down almost 20 points. Let's see, 14 to 4. Yeah, 18 points they were down at the half. So it took a huge performance in the third quarter. So the overreactions are coming in on Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris recently said that, the fans, and he understands it, but he wants them to understand the player side of things, that coming back from COVID is different for every single player. And some people do have lingering effects when they come back. And it sounds like he's making an excuse, but in this day and age with what's going on with COVID, it's a valid excuse. And while Tobias Harris is having an awful season, he was having an awful season by his standards even before COVID. It's just gotten much worse in the last couple of weeks since he's been back. Are you okay with Tobias Harris making a statement to the fans to back off, relax? Or are you on the side of the fan base that, it's not an excuse. You should be going out there and doing the best you can if you're suiting up and playing on the court?
I mean, I got to be honest with you, and this might not be the popular side, but I gotta agree with Tobias. Like, because to me, when it comes to COVID, I mean, COVID is such a serious thing going on. I mean, it's not going away. Like,
Right.
and it is different for every single person that gets it. Some people it doesn't affect at all. Other people do have long-term effects. I mean, so to me, how can we really get mad and criticize? Okay, yes, it's an excuse, but to me, it's certainly valid, especially considering we don't really know much about, the long-term effects. We don't. Nobody does. Like, so I don't think as a fan, I think we should be patient to the point where we're understanding and we're not throwing hatred at a person. I'm not saying that we can't be critical, though. There's a difference.
No, absolutely.
And that's where I think sometimes athletes, kind of get put in like up against the wall because especially, and I don't want to say here just in Philly because it happens in other cities, but we obviously are around Philly and the fan base. And a lot of times there is hatred. There's hatred all over social media. I mean, Twitter is a cesspool. I mean, from day to day, with people that just are keyboard warriors and feel that they can just go on there and say things and attack athletes. And that's where I think sometimes these athletes get to the point where they're like, I'm not going to take this. This is bullshit. Right. So there's a fine line. And, I try to put myself in the position of the athlete because it's easy for us to say and criticize somebody and say, well, they're making all this money. But at the end of the day, they're humans just like us. And when it comes to COVID, just because they're an athlete doesn't make it any different than whether it was like you or I or our sibling or whoever that had it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on there. But on the flip side of the equation, there is the thought process that he was having a bad season even before COVID. So there is room to criticize Tobias. And again, I'm a huge Tobias Harris fan. I have been his entire time here in Philly. I don't think giving him the big contract was as big of a mistake as other people do because he was going to get that contract somewhere. And you couldn't lose both Jimmy Butler and him. So knowing you were losing Jimmy Butler, you had no choice but to give him that contract. And, there'll be a lot of teams that would love to have Tobias Harris on their squad right now. So it's really tough to find that middle ground. How much of it is COVID? How much of it is him struggling in this system without Ben Simmons? How much of it is him, just having an off season? That there's so many different things, and trying to find that middle ground on all those, theories is the problem here because you'd hate to. I know there's a lot of talk that the Sixers should move on from Tobias Harris, not just trade Ben Simmons, but trade Tobias Harris as well. But you're trading away a guy that can score 20 points a game, 22 points a game, can get 8 rebounds, plays decent defense, at least better than he did in the past. What is the middle ground on all that is what it's, what's the problem? But the other problem is also, is Tobias Harris struggling? Is this team struggling because of the coach and Doc Rivers? And we touched on it earlier this week, Doc Rivers, and how is he really as good of a coach as his resume says? Is he really as good of a coach as some of the players say he is? Because he's just like Brett Brown in the sense that the mistakes he was making 2 years ago, he's still making those same mistakes. The mistakes he made in LA, still making those mistakes. And it's kind of something that I'm almost ready to put more blame on Doc Rivers than Tobias Harris. Doc Rivers than the rest of the team. You're not going to fire Doc Rivers. You're just not at this situation in the season, especially with the Ben Simmons situation. But you would think somebody with the pedigree of Doc Rivers and the respect that Doc Rivers commands across the league, you would think he would be able to do a better job than he's doing right now with this squad. Because there is talent on this squad.
Well, I kind of touched on that yesterday. Like, to me, when I heard we were getting Doc Rivers, and like I said, once again, I preface this by saying I'm not super, I'm not a basketball genius, but I was kind of thinking when we were getting Doc Rivers that we were getting this upper echelon coach and he was going to be like kind of the difference maker, like the guy that was able to push all the buttons and put, certain players in the right spots and make, great game time adjustments and all the above. But I've seen pretty much the opposite since he's got here. I mean, I'm almost like feeling like I'm rewatching Brett Brown at many times. Like when I see these games, like the mistakes that happen with the team, the same mistakes over and over and over again. And just the lack of, I don't want to say lack of care, because Joel Embiid, 99% of the time is you could tell he cares. I mean, the guy is, but a lot of times to me with this team, there seems to be the lack of energy. Like other than like Tyrese Maxey, and obviously you mentioned he was out, like Tyrese Maxey's an energy guy, but I don't see that from these other guys. Now, I understand maybe with Tobias, maybe it is, the lingering effects of the COVID. And I think the other problem when it comes to Tobias is he's a great 3. And you've said that. I think I've heard you say that on 50 shows.
Yeah.
He's a great
3. I've been saying it since before I've done shows,
He's not a 2. And that's the major problem. The lack of a second player on this team that can carry the team when, Joel's having a down game or, the other guys are having a down game. Now, Seth Curry yesterday, obviously 29 points, but a lot of that, as you said, was, late in the game.
I think it was the third quarter. They scored 31 points to Sixers in the third quarter. I'm pretty sure Embiid and Curry had almost all 31. I think it was 26 or 27 of 31 points were scored by Joel Embiid and Seth Curry. So the two of them, and I think we talked about it yesterday. And what's up, Scotty? How you doing this morning? I think we talked about it yesterday, or maybe earlier this week, that Seth Curry is actually more important at this moment offensively to the Sixers than Tobias Harris is. And Seth Curry's making $8.5 million. Tobias Harris is making 35, and that's why Tobias Harris is getting the flack that he is. It's not his fault. The Sixers gave him $35 million. He's doing the best he can. He's doing whatever it is. Yeah, the third quarter was beautiful. Yeah. Scotty's finally in a bit of a panic mode because he's one of the few that has been trying to tell us to hold out, which is interesting. I don't know if you heard, Jason, when we get back to Doc Rivers here for a second. All right, man. Thanks for checking in, Scotty. I appreciate it. Did you hear what George Niang said on the JJ Redick podcast earlier this week? George Niang's out for COVID protocols right now. Had time to get on and do a podcast with JJ Redick. And JJ Redick does a great podcast. He doesn't pull any punches. He'll call out whoever he has to call out in the NBA. He'll let the players call out. It was really interesting. But anyway, George Niang was asked about Doc Rivers and some of the stuff going on, and practice was brought up. And I don't want to make a practice joke, but practice. We're talking about practice here. Got to make the joke when it's there, even though I don't want to make the joke.
Absolutely.
And George Niang basically laughed off practice. Basically, summarizing his words were, we don't really practice. There is no practice with the Sixers. It's a glorified shoot around, and JJ Redick's like, yeah, because JJ Redick has played under Doc Rivers as well, in LA. So he knows that Doc Rivers has this reputation. He just doesn't run practices. Yeah, I mean, what?
Are you kidding me?
No, that's basically what the rumor and the joke is going from that podcast, is that everybody loves playing under Doc Rivers because there is no practice.
Oh, interesting.
So now all of a sudden I went from panicking on Doc Rivers to, well, maybe Doc Rivers isn't the right coach for this team. And so he won his title in Boston by accident.
So there's no practice. So how do you get better when you're struggling? Like,
he runs practice, but he runs a very loose, easy practice, which seems to be the problem.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's the problem. Maybe you just uncovered something, Phil.
I didn't uncover. JJ Redick is the one that dropped that bombshell.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's funny that
let's end it like this. It's really crazy because back on let me go back on my calendar here. Back before the Thursday game against the Jazz last Thursday, we talked about they had the Jazz, they had the Warriors, they had the Grizzlies, they had the Heat, and they had the Nets, and we said a 2-3 record was almost impossible for them to do, and 1-4 was much more acceptable or more what we expected, and that's what they did. They went 1-4 in that really tough game stretch. Is it time to panic? Yeah, as Scotty says, they were laughing about it on the air when they were talking about this. Sam Cassell, pump him up, the head coach. Yeah, I mean, I think he was brought in to be that heir apparent, to kind of be trained and groomed by Doc Rivers. I just hope that Sam Cassell isn't picking up any of Doc Rivers' bad habits.
Yeah, I definitely agreed with your assessment. I think Ty Lue would have been the guy, but obviously we have Doc Rivers now, so that's a wrap. But the problem is it time to panic? I think something has to happen. There has to be some kind of, whether it's a trade, whether it's a Ben Simmons trade or another trade, there's got to be some kind of move, or they got to look to something. I don't know if they have anybody else on the roster that they could start giving more time to.
They don't.
I know when teams, struggle, you say, well, maybe you start playing more of the young guy. I don't know.
Well, I said it before. I think it comes down to not waiting until February 10th to trade Ben Simmons. You need to make that Ben Simmons trade now if you want to salvage this season, because whoever you get back for Ben Simmons, you need time to develop their chemistry with Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, so that then by February 10th, any ancillary moves that need to be made can be made. And that's why I'm not trying to say that Daryl Morey needs to rush to make a trade, but there has to be some kind of a timeline, some kind of a deadline on that, because you can't trade Ben Simmons on February 1st and then realize what you have by February 10th. It just, would you like SGA from Oklahoma? Absolutely would love him. You could probably even get one of their 1,700 draft picks in that deal as well, since they own every single first-round draft pick in the NBA for the next 4 years. Yeah, absolutely, I would love it. And Ben Simmons would fit really well in Oklahoma City as well, because first off, no expectations there. Smaller medium market. He would be great there at OKC. So yeah, I would love him. I mean, he's in my definite top 5. So we just talked about the practice and how, as Scotty said, how it's a laughing stock with practice and all. It is very hard to run a lot of practices during the NBA season, because there's a lot of travel. You get one day off here or there. But the Sixers actually have a pretty easy schedule from now until the day after Christmas. So they don't play again until Sunday. So they have the next 2 days off. You could definitely run 1 or 2 practices in those days off. Then they get the Pelicans at home, who are not a good team. So there's a win. So you got 2 days off, some practice, and a game like the Pelicans where you should win. Then you play back-to-back, you play the Celtics. Then you get 2 more days off and then play the Hawks. Then you get 2 more days off and then play the Wizards. So there's 6 days off. 2 days off from now. What's today? The 17th? In the next 9 days, next 10 days, they have 4 games. They have 6 days off in the next 10 days. That's an opportunity for Doc Rivers to practice, to do whatever it may be. We'll see how they come out of it, because then after that, they close the year out against the Nets again. So we'll see. But we need to see that with all these practice games, this would be the time to have a Ben Simmons trade done, so you have time for practice with your new teammates and all.
I mean, yeah, and you have to feel at least somewhat, bad for Embiid, because it's like he's playing
last night.
He's playing at such a high level, last year and this year, it's just like, and we're wasting this guy. We could.
You see the front last night when
so
they went down.
Frustrating.
You could see he was mentally checked out of that game briefly, because he just got so frustrated, because he knows his window is small. His window for ultimate success.
The hourglass is trending down on his time because of his physical nature and the injuries. He only has that window of maybe a 2 to 3 at most 4. I mean, and maybe he'll prove us wrong, but if they don't get this situation rectified, a la trade Ben Simmons, and get something that you can kind of, even if you don't get the Dame Lillard, but you get something to help this team, they're in big trouble, man, because Tobias Harris can't be a 2. He's a great 3, but he can't be a 2. And they don't have anybody in the pipeline that can be a 2 yet. I mean, Maxey, maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, possibly. But once again, that's too late. Like, you need somebody so it might take Morey working some magic. I mean, Morey has worked magic in the past. Maybe he'll have to totally kind of, change course here and course correct.
Yep. All right. Let's wrap the Sixers talk up there. Let's get to the Eagles here. Let's transition a little bit. We do got a Eagles game this weekend against Washington. Before we get into the rest of the NFL, I want to talk Eagles-Washington for a little bit. Obviously, Washington is ravaged by COVID. I think they're up to 21 guys. 18 of their 53-man roster, a couple practice squad guys are on COVID. The line is up to 9.5 now in that Eagles game, just because there's no way Washington could field a competitive team this week. First off, there's a lot of back and forth on social media whether the game should even be played, whether any games, because there's over 100 NFL players on COVID lists right now. Let's just start with the game itself. Let's not talk COVID per se. What do the Eagles have to do to win on Sunday against Washington?
Well, I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Keep running the football. Like, that's numero one. Like, continue with the game plan of running the ball and using the run to set up the pass. I think regardless of who's behind center, whether it's Hurts or Minshew, the Eagles should absolutely 100% win this game. There's not an excuse. Like, the cards are all lining up for the Eagles. It couldn't have been. I don't wish injury or that or anybody, and it's a sad situation, but it is the situation. So let's take advantage of it and win a game that you absolutely better win. Because if the Eagles come out and shit the bed and lose this game, I'm done. Like, you cannot have these opportunities and then not take advantage of them. Like, that's where, like, I'm looking at Sirianni as the coach and how he's grown. He needs to, because you've mentioned it quite often. We are not sure how Sirianni's going to come out after a bye. We saw how Andy Reid did. He was very successful. We saw how, even Doug Peterson was. Obviously, he did very well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team is as far as, are they up for the game?
Right. So I think it's even easier than just run the ball.
Don't
they just show up. They just have to show up, and they should be able to. That's the key to the game. Just show up. You brought up a good point. You don't even know who's the starting quarterback, Jalen Hurts or Gardner Minshew. I think that's interesting. At first, Jalen Hurts just had a sprained ankle, and Coach Sirianni was pretty adamant after the Jets game that if he's healthy, he'll be starting this week. But then this week, it kind of is coming out a little bit here and there. That's a little bit more than just an ankle sprain. That's a high ankle sprain, which does take a little longer to recover from. He's walking through, but he's not really practicing with the team, Jalen Hurts, right now. So, to me, I'm leaning towards that Gardner Minshew is probably starting this game on Sunday. At least that's what my opinion from everything I'm seeing and hearing from practice and from the coach talk is going to be. There's
two sides. There's two sides.
You want to rush Jalen Hurts back? If he's got a high ankle sprain and Washington is as depleted as a team and a roster as they are, why would you even worry about rushing them back at this point?
Well, there's two sides to the argument, because you have a lot of people that are saying that the way that it's sounding is like, Sirianni's, that Hurts really is hurt more than they're letting on. But then there's the other side of people that are saying that this is kind of Coach speak where all along Hurts is going to play, but they're kind of leaving that doubt out there so that kind of as like an advantage, you know, to kind of get into the team's head where they don't know who the quarterback's going to be.
Right.
Like Ray Didinger seems to believe that it's that.
Okay.
And Ray Didinger is a knowledgeable guy. There's other people that are saying that, you know, well, this injury is probably worse than they're saying, and they don't want to say how that it is a high ankle sprain and he really is going to be out longer or trending to be out longer. I'm with you. I don't want to rush the guy if he's not 100% because to me, Jalen Hurts' number one weapon is his legs. I mean, let's face it. We all want Jalen Hurts to become Jalen Hurts, the better pocket passer and better passer. But at the end of the day, I've seen Jalen Hurts have most of his success when he runs. When he's not running or he's kind of gun shy about it, that's kind of when he seems to struggle. Like, use your legs. If you have them, use them. I mean, I used to say it all the time with McNabb, like when McNabb didn't want to run. Like, and now I know a lot of it towards the end of his career was more so injury related. But if you have that weapon,
use it.
You can't. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't care if Jalen Hurts gets 4 rushing touchdowns and doesn't throw one if we win the game. So to me, I don't want to rush the guy back if I don't want to rush the guy back if he's not.
You're going to play that piano in the background there. Just so you know.
Should I play? Maybe I can join buddies at Talking 215 and we can have our own
you can have a little duo.
We can have our own song for Jalen Hurts.
Absolutely. Yeah. See, I got to be. Look at that. We're in the same house and we don't even know it. Anyway, that joke. I just now I'm all lost now.
I love Scott. I know because Scotty gets you thrown off.
Yeah. I'm off. Let's go back to my basic background here.
No, but in all kidding aside, like I don't want to rush the guy back.
Absolutely.
If it really is, more serious. Because let's face it, high ankle sprains for the average player, not just a quarterback that uses his legs, sometimes take 3 to 4 weeks to heal. Like I've seen wide receivers out this year for 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain. So it's not, it's not something light to take lightly. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Because I don't think it matters. I don't think this game matters whether it's Hurts or Minshew. I think we're going to win the game regardless of who's there. So err on the side of caution. If it's that much of a question, then go with Minshew. Yeah, and it's not a quarterback controversy.
I mean, I'm not rushing Jalen Hurts back, but I'm also the concern will be again. We Gardner Minshew somewhat looked great against the Jets, but it was just the Jets. Gardner Minshew plays on Sunday, and they beat the Washington. People aren't going to talk about the fact that Washington has 18 guys out, 18 regular rotation guys out because of COVID. They're going to talk about Gardner Minshew looking great, and you're going to have that controversy, surrounding the quarterback position more. So I'm kind of torn. Like I want Jalen Hurts to be healthy, but and play, but I also don't want to deal with the controversy. So yeah, I'm kind of torn there, but I'm most likely I'm erring on the side of caution and sitting Jalen Hurts down if he's even slightly banged up still.
But I will say this: you have to believe that the competitor and the drive that Hurts has, if he is close to being healthy, he's going to be playing. Like I don't see like him just saying, "Okay, I'll sit." Like at the end of the day, he wants to play. And Hurts has that. He's the leader and the character that I believe he will go to Sirianni and say, look, I'm good, coach. I'm going to play. And I don't see them not playing him unless he's like, less than 50%. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he's going to.
I don't see them playing him if he's less than 75%.
And that's why I'm not as sold on it that it's, that bad. And I think it's more Sirianni kind of playing the coach speak type thing, and that Hurts at the end of the day is going to be announced. Okay, Hurts is playing. That's
the other
my
side,
opinion.
But I know they're missing 18 players out of their 53-man active roster right now, and 21 total guys out. And obviously, as of 9 o'clock, anything we talk about right now is based off of 9 a.m. this morning, and more names could be added to that list today. Obviously, when you have a rash outbreak in a locker room, more names can be changed. So any opinions we have on this game can change over the next 48 hours as more names get added or taken off. They not only have to test negative one time, all the different things going on. But out of the people that are healthy and still scheduled to play in this game, they still have Tyler Heineke, who is not a great quarterback, but he's the type of quarterback that gives us fits, that volatile quarterback that runs around, throws the ball. He might throw 4 picks against the Eagles, but he also might throw 4 touchdowns. And they still got one of the best running backs in football in Antonio Gibson. And yeah, he's going to have to touch the ball 30 times with Terry McLaurin out, with their tight end, Logan Thomas out, with so many guys on the offensive line out, other wide receivers out. Curtis Samuel's still not healthy. Does Tyler Heineke and Antonio Gibson scare you at all, or because of how many other guys around them are out, you're not really concerned at all?
Well, I don't want to be so quick to say that McLaurin is out, because he did practice yesterday, although it was limited. But I will say the fact that he had a limited practice after a concussion is actually a good trend, because most of the players that I've seen this year, especially with being big in fantasy, obviously, I'm a fantasy guy.
Absolutely.
All these guys that have concussions that have been out multiple weeks have not even done a walkthrough. So the fact that he has a limited practice on a Wednesday, to me, signifies that he may play. Okay. I'm just throwing that out there. So I think Terry McLaurin, if he plays, he definitely makes Washington, more of a threat.
Right.
But the fact is, with Terry McLaurin, and I've watched a lot of his games because I have him on a lot of my fantasy rosters.
Pick in the offseason.
He's been Tyler Heineke's been struggling to get him the ball not because Terry McLaurin's not good, because I think Terry McLaurin's a top 10 talent if he had the right quarterback, but more so because Washington truly has no other weapons around him. Like they brought in Curtis Samuel, who's supposed to be this like the Robin to the Batman, and he's been basically non-existent.
I think he played like 4 games this year. He's been banged up really, really bad.
Well, yeah, and that's a lot of it to do with it. But even the games that he's played fully healthy, he's done nothing. So I think Terry McLaurin, I could see the Eagles probably using Darius Slay as just to blanket him.
Absolutely.
So if they take Terry McLaurin out of the game and kind of focus on stopping Antonio Gibson, yes, Washington has nobody. But I agree. Unfortunately, these are the types of games sometimes that the Eagles, quote unquote, struggle with, because it's the times where we're saying there's no way the Eagles are going to lose this game. I mean, that's what we were saying about the Giants. And now I know the Giants didn't have 13 people out or 23 people out on COVID.
Right.
But we were saying that about the Giants, and we ended up losing because we took them lightly. So that's the hope, is that we're coming out of this bye and we say, no questions asked. We have to smack these guys. You can't take them lightly. You can't say, oh, well, they have 21 players out. We have this. Right. If they go in with that mentality, they're going to get their ass kicked, because I've seen it too many times with this team where you come out of it, you're coming out and you say, well, this is a must-win game, and there's, we're going to win just because we're the Eagles. You've seen it this year with this team earlier in the year. So absolutely. I want to see them come out and be aggressive from Jump Street. Hopefully they win the toss, and hopefully they take the ball. And I want to see a first, drive touchdown, not a field goal. I want them to come out firing and just be, I'm not saying passing. When I say firing, I mean come out, have a nice drive, move the football, and then put points on there and say we're taking this game. Right. If they do that, then I don't see any issues. But
all right, so then give me your prediction. How's it play out? Go as you want it to go, or does it go differently? And what's your final prediction?
Well, I think that they're going to do it. I think Sirianni showed me enough in the last 4 or 5 games that he's truly getting better as a coach, and he's getting to know his players better and who to use in these roles. My only concern is I'm sick of the Rager use. Like I really wish that, but there's nobody else.
You're going to see even more Jalen Reagor this week because Quez Watkins is on the COVID list. So
I know, and that to me is an issue and a concern.
More Jalen Reagor this week.
You know what? Maybe this is the Jalen Reagor breakout game. Like maybe
I throw him in a DFS lineup on DraftKings just for that.
Maybe just maybe Jalen Reagor actually has one signature game, like where we're like,
he has 4 catches.
Is that Jalen Reagor? I don't know. Like that. Yeah, maybe that's wishful thinking. But I think that they're going to win the game. I do. I mean, I'm sticking to that. I said it the other day on one of your shows, and I'm going to stick to my. I think I commented on when you had ref the district. I predicted 24-18, I believe.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what you predicted. I know you predicted, and I don't remember what the score was.
Well, I'm going to say 24-18. I think the Redskins will put some points up.
You're saying the Redskins cover the 9.5 points?
Oh, I meant Washington football. I'm so used to calling them the Redskins.
Think
guys.
Yeah, you're going to get so much slander and hate for accidentally saying that now, right? Yeah, I actually think the Eagles, I don't want to say struggle, but if Jalen Hurts plays the game, I'm going to stick to my predictions from Wednesday night with the ref the district crew. And I said if Jalen Hurts plays, which I thought it was more likely then, now I'm thinking it's more likely a Gardner Minshew game. But if Jalen Hurts plays, I still got the Eagles winning, but they're not covering the 9.5 points. I'm gonna go really low scoring if Jalen Hurts plays. I'm gonna go 17-13 Eagles.
Okay.
Which sounds pathetic, but a 17-13 is a score that just dictates that the Eagles are then doing what they're supposed to do, and that's run the football, control the time of possession, control the clock. You know, they could get up 14-0, 17-0, and easily give up a touchdown or two to Tyler Heineke, you know, when he's doing his late game magic kind of stuff. But yeah, I see the Eagles 17-13. But if Gardner Minshew plays, I think it's a totally different game plan, and I can see it going 24-13 Eagles. So there's a little bit more passing option and more passing in the game plan with Gardner Minshew. So a big touchdown here or there is the difference between 17 and 24 points. So, yeah, it's either 17-13 with Jalen Hurts or 24-13 with Gardner Minshew as the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I definitely could see that, what you're saying, and Phil, and I agree. I think, you know, I also think, and I'm hoping, I haven't really looked at the injury report, but have we heard about, is Miles Sanders definitely playing? Like,
I mean, no, he's not. Nobody's definitely playing at this point. Okay. But he's trending.
Howard.
He's trending in the right direction. Jason
Jordan
Kelce.
Howard.
They have not said Howard was limited. Kelce was a full participant in practice yesterday. So Kelce isn't just trending in the right direction. Kelce is playing, it seems like.
All right, well, that's the most important to me.
That's
is
the most important thing. Having Kelce out there because we know our offensive line, lacks depth at the center position. We'll have to wait and see how today's walkthrough goes. But this is my problem right here that Scotty's bringing up here. If Gardner Minshew has another good game and we win, people aren't going to look at it going up against Washington undermanned. They're just going to look at the stat line, just like they did against the Jets, and we're going to have more quarterback controversy. And I'm gonna fall back on my overreaction Monday statement from after the Jets game. I said Jalen Hurts should be the starting quarterback. It's best for the franchise moving forward. But Gardner Minshew should be the starting quarterback if you're trying to make the playoffs this year and you do not care about next year. I'm sticking with it. You know, I don't want Gardner Minshew to be the quarterback. I want Jalen Hurts to have his opportunity. But if you want playoffs, you get we'll just make numbers up here. Gardner Minshew gives you a 75% chance of making the playoffs. Jalen Hurts gives you a 55% chance of making the playoffs. So it's stupid. It sounds stupid, but it's just the way it is. Gardner Minshew,
I definitely disagree with you on that. I have to disagree, but that's just me.
Not you disagree with me. Give me some hatred for it.
I definitely disagree. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts gives you the best chance to make the playoffs. I think if you look at both of the quarterbacks, I will say this much about Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew, to me, is the only reason that he looks and appears on the eye test better than Jalen Hurts as a passer is because he is further along on reading progressions. Mm-hmm. he's not as late on his throws, but I will say there were some underthrown balls.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that.
I think the problem is everyone is so ultra hyper focused on the fact that Jalen Hurts does not have good arm strength. And that is totally bullshit. I'm sorry. It is. It's BS. Jalen Hurts can throw some deep balls. The problem with Jalen Hurts is that when you're behind on a throw, it appears that you don't have arm strength. That's the problem. He's behind on his reads. Every read that he has, he's always behind. Mm-hmm. And that's where he has to get better as a quarterback. And that is coachable, by the way. There's plenty of quarterbacks.
It is because the way I translate that is that it's not that he's – so I just think what he's seeing on the field isn't – like you need to see it and compute it and react in this much time. But it's taking him this much time for it to go from his eyes to his brain to his arm. Can you teach somebody to compute data that you're seeing in action faster? And that's the concern with them.
I think you get taught it by experience. I think you get better,
which is why that's why I believe he should be starting, because if he gets better,
and that's my point. Like I think Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback overall than Gardner Minshew. Right. The overall package.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew right now is better as far as a passer because he has more time in the league. He's actually he was obviously Jacksonville's starter for almost 2 years.
Right.
The guy's not like so he's further along.
3,500 plus passing yards in his career.
He's further along in his growth.
10 interceptions. Yeah.
So it listen, every quarterback too is going to have kind of their favorites and who they kind of feel more comfortable with. And I know it was an easy point and a finger point. See, I told you so. Goddard got the ball all of a sudden. See, it's all Jalen Hurts' fault. But let's remember, there's also a time where you have to give credit to the other teams. Other teams know with the Eagles that Dallas Goedert and Devonta Smith are the only players and weapons on this team.
Right.
Who do you think other teams' defenses are keying on 90% of the time? Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith. I will say that. Like, it's easy to just say, well, nobody's getting Dallas Goedert the ball. But, did you ever think that maybe Dallas Goedert's covered pretty good? I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's just it's frustrating to me.
Eagles winning. So we're going to wrap that up there. It's just going to be a matter of how much they win and by how much based off of the quarterback and stuff like that. Let's real quick. We got about 15 minutes left in the show today. Let's just go through the NFL real quick. Obviously, like I said, so much is in flux this week with the NFL, with so many people headed to and on and maybe coming back sooner than expected from the COVID list. Just like the NFL went later this year with buys, they're also starting Saturday night games a little sooner this year because we're into week 14 and they've already got Saturday night football. We got 2 games on Saturday night, Raiders and Browns and Patriots and Colts. I think that Patriots-Colt game could be super fun. Carson Wentz playing really well. The Colts are actually favored Saturday night over the 9-4 Patriots, which is actually kind of surprising to me. So I like that game a lot. The Raiders-Browns game, I think, would have been a really good game had it not been that the Browns are in advanced protocols right now as well. So you got those 2 games on Saturday night. Do you like either of those 2 games, or do you want to? Are you interested in watching either of those 2 games?
Well, it's funny because I had that game circled before we came on the show. The Patriots Colts, like, to me, that actually might be the best game on paper on the whole schedule, as far as being like a game that could be competitive. I mean, I'm looking down the other games. I'm like,
you're not thinking the Jags Texans game is the game of the week?
Yeah, there's some pretty bad games this week. I just really noticed that.
In a second, but if you go up and down, the schedule. The Eagles are 9.5 point favorites. Bills 10.5 point favorites. The Cardinals 12.5 point favorites. The Dolphins 9.5 point favorites. The Cowboys 10.5 point favorites. There is literally the 49ers 9.5-point favorites. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers 11. There's literally half a dozen games or more there that are 9.5 to 12.5-point lines. I don't know if I've ever remembered as a better that many games with that big of lines.
Dude.
And most of it comes down to COVID and stuff like that and injuries at this point in the season. But man, that's insane that there are so many blowout expectations this week in the NFL.
That's what I mean. There's some really bad games. I mean, Arizona is going to trounce the Lions, like even with DeAndre Hopkins being out. Like
the Lions have some COVID issues. TJ Hawkinson, their tight ends, out for the season with an injury. The Lions just went from bad to even worse. It's a good thing they got their win, already.
The Jets and Dolphins, like that game, geez. I just don't see any games on this slate. The only game actually that I see that could be a good, fun game would be Seattle, LA. Yeah. Because they're always good games. Every time the Rams play the Seahawks, they're always like generally these shootouts. Like, so that could be maybe the game that
actually, I won't lie. I'm slightly 1% intrigued by the Texans-Jaguars game. Because there's two things going on in that game. One, that game, the loser of that game gets set into the number 2 pick overall in the draft. The winner of that game, goes to 3 overall. And secondly, just seeing what Darrell Bevell does, and now that Urban Meyer's been fired, the toxicity from that coach is out of that team and out of that locker room. Does Darrell Bevell do anything different with Trevor Lawrence, with Juice Robinson, with Lance Chenault, any of these guys that there's so much expectations on offensively this year? It's not like we were expecting to win 12 games, but we didn't expect them to be 2-11 and look pathetic all season long. I'm kind of intrigued to see if that one game or that first game without Urban Meyer, if Darrell Bevell just keeps to what they've been doing, or if he switches it up a little bit, and maybe we see a little bit of a spark from Trevor Lawrence, who was the number 1 overall pick.
I personally think the Jaguars are going to come out and put 40 points up. I think it's going to be like the switch went off, like the coach is out and now we're going to play. Like Marvin Jones might have 2 touchdowns and 100 yards. Like it's going to be one of those kind of games because I think it's obvious what the issue in Jacksonville was. Obviously, they are still devoid of talent overall on the overall roster, but they have a couple players that, I mean, you mentioned Chenault. Don't forget they lost DJ Shark for the season. DJ Shark's a really nice young receiver too as well. And James Robinson, obviously, last year came out of nowhere. He was an undrafted free agent, right, and he kind of, burst onto the scene, and they've basically totally misused him.
Well, no. Now remember, so Urban Meyer says, well, I don't have control over which running back is out there. But then Darrell Bevell came out on Thursday and instantly said, now, obviously, Robinson is our starter. He's going to get he basically, I saw so many people joking on social media like, oh, I didn't know the coach could decide which running back gets on the field. And Bevell flat out said, it's going to be a Juice Robinson game. So if anybody, I don't see Marvin Jones going off tomorrow. I see Robinson going off on Sunday. Robinson's going to touch the ball 25 times, not 5 times like he did last week. He's going to touch the ball 25 times, which he rightfully should be every single week.
Well, the other thing, too, don't forget, they also drafted Travis Etienne in the first round. So I think there's hope for the Jaguars, obviously, moving forward. Obviously, they're going to get another high draft pick. Mm-hmm. I'd be anxious. I hope they jump all over Doug Peterson. I'm with you. I think they should do it now. But I would love to see Doug Peterson with that team because it's interesting. Like, he'd be getting basically Trevor Lawrence, like he already had Carson Wentz. I'd be anxious to see what he could do with a guy that's capable of being a generational quarterback.
Yep, agreed. So if you look at that lineup of games this weekend, is there any game that jumps out at you that could be a potential upset this week?
Looking at it now.
I mean, I'm looking at a few games that could be an upset this week, honestly.
I think
lines, the Bengals are the underdogs against the Broncos. The Bengals, I think, will beat the Broncos personally. And I think that line is misleading. I don't think it's a good line. Same thing like with the Patriots-Colts. I don't know why the Patriots aren't favored in that game. So I could say the Patriots would be the upset of the week. But to me, that's a misdone line there. I'll have to jump into COVID and see maybe there's injuries and stuff like that. But I don't see an underdog.
I'm gonna say the Steelers over the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, right on ESPN, there is no line on that game. It's just even.
So it wouldn't be. I guess in my opinion, I guess I'm going by what I think, not by the. But if I'm going by the betting,
Steelers are 6-6-1.
The Titans are like, obviously the better team. So to me, that would be an upset. But I guess you're right. I don't know. Like, could the Giants beat the Cowboys? Would that be considered an upset?
I mean, it would be an upset, but no, it's not. They're not going to beat them. I think this is a week where almost every game the favorite team is going to win.
Could the Falcons beat the Niners? Would that be an upset?
While you were talking, I was thinking about it. Can you really get behind Jimmy G as a playoff quarterback? I don't know.
Would that be an upset?
The Falcons winning? Yeah, I mean, the 49ers are a 9.5-point favorite in that game. Okay. Not like 2 or 3 points. There's only a game separating them in the
I'm going to pick that. I should go on your thing and bet it.
Yeah. Why not? Go ahead and play it. Falcons covering the 9.5 is not an awful bet, honestly, in my opinion. It's a strong bet, actually, in my opinion. And then you got Monday Night Football. You got the Vikings versus the Bears. Sunday Night Football, Saints at the Buccaneers.
I could see the Bears beating the Vikings too, but
the Vikings you can never bet against or for the Vikings because you just don't know what Kirk Cousins is going to do every single week.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's pretty crazy that there's so many high lines like that. But I also agree with you. It probably more than likely has to do with COVID, like people being out.
And real quick, I know you texted me this morning before we got into the studio about how great that Chiefs-Chargers game was last night. Chiefs winning 34-28 in overtime. We both predicted a high-scoring game. You were right. You picked the Chiefs. I picked the Chargers yesterday. Patrick Mahomes, man, he was having a really light game, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he went in the fourth quarter in overtime, three or four of his touchdowns. He had 200 yards passing, late in that game. What an insane move. That was like, the Mahomes-Herbert is going to be a great, fun rivalry over the next 10 years. And we it wasn't a passing the torch kind of game because obviously Mahomes is not that old. But that was a moment for Herbert to kind of be like, yo, I'm on the same level. And he was playing great. Then all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes is like, hold on a second. Still Patrick Mahomes. We still got Tyreek Hill. We still got Travis Kelce. Hang on a second. And then they came back. They stormed back and won that game in overtime. I fell asleep before the game was over. So I didn't see the comeback completed in overtime. But anything you want to say about that game?
Well, I can't say I'm surprised. Obviously, I picked the Chiefs. And the reason I did that is I wasn't totally buying into the Chargers' recent success on defense. Because if you look at the Chargers overall, their overall, roadmap to how they got to where they're at, they're really bad at defense, especially against the pass. I mean, and, I think this whole time, a lot of people have been kind of sleeping on the Chiefs. I've been saying it actually the last couple of weeks to keep an eye on them because their defense is playing better. And obviously last night they gave up 28 points. But overall, the Chiefs, if you look at it, like a lot of their big name guys haven't been really putting up huge numbers, a la Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. But those are the kind of guys that on any given night can have a game like last night. And obviously, you're going up against a defense that's not top tier. And I think you're right. I think Pat Mahomes is kind of getting sick of hearing the chatter like, oh, Pat Mahomes is regressing. And I'm sure that he hears that. And obviously last night, he was even struggling early in the game. But I think once that switch went off in his head and that, the light went off, he was just like on fire. And obviously Travis Kelce, a lot of people, I heard people saying Travis Kelce's washed. What? Like, really? Are you kidding me? Like, there was people on Twitter saying it because his fantasy numbers were down. Like, dude, the guy is a beast.
The fantasy numbers and not enough into the. I know fantasy's $1 billion business, but yeah, they got to stop that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, dude,
Travis Kelce. Is that what they said?
Huh?
That's what I say to Travis Kelce being washed right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
But yeah, definitely.
Finish packing up and getting home here. It's been another great week of Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. Make sure you're following on Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. The road to 500 continues. Thank you to all the people that have been chiming in today. Chili Triple H, I don't even know who you are, but thanks for checking in there. Scotty, everybody else in the comment section, much appreciated for all your comments and tuning into the show. As always, and all DSM shows were brought to you by Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products. Check them out, manscaped.com. Promo code TRENDING, name of the show right above my head there. 20% off free shipping, and to let them know that I sent you from this show. We'll be back next week. We'll be back on Monday for Overreaction Monday. It's Jason's first time joining me for Overreaction Monday. I can't wait after the Eagles lose to Washington what the overreactions are going to be, or Gardner Minshew throws 300 yards, what the overreactions are going to be. We'll see how that all plays out and all goes down. Again, another great week, and I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you very much. And, make sure you follow Jason at Mustang3651, Sports and Metal Podcast, Drunk on Ice. What's that?
No, real quick, I just wanted to, kind of give a shout out. So tonight we will be having Drunk on Ice, the 5th episode.
You and Don coming, right?
Don and I will be, so we don't have a guest. It'll just be Don and I. And obviously, we don't just talk Flyers. We talk kind of NHL. And obviously with NHL, we have the, COVID stuff going on there. Obviously last night, the Canada games, they're not going to have fans now. So I don't know if you saw that. That's pretty big news. We'll be, covering that. So, and we also, I'll be having Sports and Metal tonight as well. So Sports and Metal.
Man, you got a jam-packed day, 3 podcasts in one day.
There you go, sir.
You control that. That's like my level.
I'm trying to be a mini me of you. You know what I mean?
All right, everybody. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday morning for Trending in the AM Overreaction Monday. Make sure you follow Jason so you could see Sports and Metal tonight and Drunk on Ice. Everybody have a great weekend. And as we end every show, go Birds.
Go Birds.